Hello and welcome to today's session of Battery Insights. Today I shall be proceeding to part 3 of my series 1, and here we will be talking mainly about battery safety in the process of handling or usage as well as storage. And I hope you will enjoy this session too, and I look forward to your comments and suggestions after you see this video. So let's proceed to the next slide. In this slide, you can see the topics that I've already covered, which are the first 7 topics. In part 1, I covered 4 topics, and in part 2, I covered 3 topics. And today we are going to pick up only one topic: safe handling of lead acid batteries. This topic is essential and critical, and hence it is being taken in isolation. When it comes to safety, the importance is not only for the people who are manufacturing the batteries, but it is also critical for people who are transporting the batteries, storing the batteries, handling the batteries, and using the batteries. And after use, the careless disposal of batteries can also be risky, though we all know that lead acid batteries are recyclable. Unusable scrap batteries must be returned to the manufacturer or an authorized smelter. It is essential to use the battery as recommended by the manufacturer. Otherwise, if you do not get good results from the battery, you may term it as an unsafe product. And all those who come into close proximity to batteries should observe the safety measures that apply to those involved in battery manufacturing and servicing. That means the people who are using the batteries must also understand and be trained to know what is safe and what is unsafe. Hence, only trained personnel must be allowed to operate lead acid batteries. As we all know, a battery contains positive plates, negative plates, and electrolyte. The electrolyte is dilute sulfuric acid. Dilute sulfuric acid is corrosive, and if you come into contact with it, it causes skin irritation. If this acid gets into the eyes, it can cause damage. In case the acid spills on skin or clothing, you must wash it thoroughly with copious amounts of water and seek medical attention if you notice any severe skin damage. Hence, it is necessary to wear protective clothing and goggles to prevent acid from splashing into the eyes. All these are generally referred to and mentioned in the operation manual supplied along with the batteries. Of course, when it comes to automotive batteries, the user generally does not come into contact with the battery directly. It is only the service station people who typically do the top-up filling, recharging, or other similar activities. But then, in case they are doing it, they should also be aware of the safety procedures for handling electrolytes. Water topping up also needs to be done. To do this, the vent plugs will need to be removed and water will need to be put through the vent holes. This has to be done in an automotive battery once every 6 months. In a stationary battery, it depends on whether it's a low maintenance battery or a normal maintenance battery and the extent of usage. Maintenance free batteries cannot be topped up, but generally topping up once in 3 to 6 months is recommended for a flooded electrolyte stationary battery. When it comes to an e-rickshaw or traction battery, which is charged and discharged daily, the water topping up must be more frequent. Every 1 to 15 days, the water level must be checked and cells topped up with deionized water. The specific gravity also needs to be checked periodically, especially if you cycle batteries more frequently and you're taking the acid into the hydrometer and putting it back into the cells. A similar frequency of topping up is required for batteries in vehicles such as golf cart scrubber or sweeper. This has to be done very carefully and the record of readings will need to be maintained. All these activities have to be done to ensure that the battery does not dry out and remains in a good state of charge, resulting in good performance and a longer life. What you should not do is underfill or overfill when adjusting the levels of electrolyte, because if you underfill, the performance gets affected. If you overfill, a part of the acid can go out of the battery and so the specific gravity can go down and you will have a performance related issue. Never use metal containers for dispensing water because they may rust and you can end up introducing iron, which is an impurity. Never add acid to the cells unless the battery has toppled and acid has leaked out of the cells. In such cases, it is necessary to fill demineralized, deionized, or distilled water temporarily in the cells. Under no circumstances must the battery cells be allowed to dry. The next step shall be to contact the manufacturer, ask for the instructions on how the acid gravity needs to be adjusted, what specific gravity acid has to be added to the cell, and what the final specific gravity should be. The battery shall need to be charged and specific gravity adjustments made with the charger in on position. A service engineer trained by the manufacturer shall be better equipped to handle such cases where the battery has toppled and electrolyte needs to be introduced. In many batteries, we find that because of gassing or due to acid or water remaining on top of the battery, there is some corrosion buildup around the terminals. This needs to be neutralized with sodium carbonate or sodium bicarbonate solution. However, please ensure that this does not get into the battery and the vent holes are completely sealed and only the terminals are washed and cleaned using sodium carbonate or sodium bicarbonate. When charging batteries, we find that hydrogen and oxygen are both evolved. Hydrogen is an explosive gas released especially during the last stages of charging, which is when the batteries are beyond the gassing stage. The hydrogen evolved can be substantially high, and under faulty conditions, it can ignite, leading to hazards from an explosion. Any electrostatic discharge, that is, a metal abrasion or welding or grinding operations with a flame and spark, can cause a catastrophic fire. Always ensure that you use insulated tools, because if you use uninsulated tools and end up shorting the positive and negative terminals, there can be an explosion due to the short circuit. The batteries need to be kept in a cool and ventilated place. The ventilation is required so that the hydrogen which is evolved from the battery is vented out of the battery and out of the room. It must not remain inside the room, because if you have more than 4% by volume of hydrogen, this is the lower explosive limit. In case somebody walks in, either smoking or if he walks in and if there is static electricity, even this can lead to a fire. You have to ensure that there is no smoking allowed and that there are no naked flames near the battery, especially when charging. Also keep the top of the battery clean and dry. It is preferable not to charge the battery with the vent caps removed. If you remove the vent caps and there is a lot of gassing, a misty layer can form on top of the battery, and this may be an acidic layer. An acidic moist layer on the battery top can cause corrosion, and there can be some local self-discharge. Never put any metal object on top of the battery. A battery can get short-circuited if two or more of the cell terminals or the intercell connectors are connected with a metal object that is capable of conducting electricity. Hence, it is required that you remove ornaments such as rings, wristwatches, bracelets, or similar items that can conduct an electricity. Also, do not have anything that can conduct electricity inside the pocket, which can fall from the pocket and short the battery. Do not overcharge the battery or keep it on charge for an extended period beyond the recommended period. Do not charge beyond the recommended period and feed more than the required AH input to the battery. Before connecting or disconnecting the battery, ensure that the charger is off and check all the connections. Ensure that the connections are all tight and covered with petroleum jelly before you start the charger. Sometimes when you begin the charger, a loose contact can cause a spark and the terminals can even get damaged. As I mentioned earlier, use only insulated tools when removing or replacing the terminal contacts, and always keep the contact surface clean. Also check the condition of the charging plug and socket regularly. Any worn cables or cables with exposed insulation need to be replaced, or you have to ensure that you put insulating tape over the conducting wires. Never overcharge or undercharge the battery, and always use the correct type and size of charger. If your battery is a 48 volt 400 Ah battery and it requires a charger suitable for 48 volt and a maximum current of 60 amps or so, do not use a 72 volt charger to charge the 48 volt battery. Also ensure that you do not use a 100 amps charger where 60 amps is required, and never ever attempt to repair or reset the charger. Only qualified people should perform any resetting, and they must use approved components to do this. As we all know, lead acid batteries and cells are very heavy because lead by itself is very heavy, and it is therefore required to use adequate mechanical handling systems to lift or even move heavy batteries. In case of automotive batteries, of course, there are handles. Ensure that these handles are good and avoid picking up a battery using the handle if it is likely to come off, as this can be very dangerous. Such batteries with faulty handles can even fall on your feet or legs, resulting in a fracture or serious injury. Ensure that you do not drop the battery and cause physical damage to it. Even if there is no visible damage, dropping the battery can cause internal damage leading to a malfunction. Always keep the batteries upright when lifting. This is more applicable in the case of flooded electrolyte batteries, and always inspect, as I mentioned, the lifting handles or any other lifting equipment provided to ensure that there is no corrosion or deterioration. Care must also be taken to ensure that when you're carrying the battery, you have tightened all the vent plugs and there is no possibility of electrolyte spilling from the battery. In the case of stationary batteries that you're keeping on a stand or trolley, keep the battery in the correct position and never keep the battery on a sloping surface because that will give you an incorrect indication of the level of electrolyte. It is necessary to keep the battery on a level surface and ensure that the battery is easily accessible for maintenance. In case of heavy batteries like traction batteries, it is necessary to use material handling equipment like a forklift truck or a pallet truck to remove the battery from the vehicle and also to transport it from one end to the other. Do not try pushing or lifting the battery employing 6 or 8 people because these batteries are very heavy. Always ensure that the lifting equipment you use is not damaged or faulty. In case there are any defects in the mechanical handling system or lifting system, report immediately and ensure that these are repaired satisfactorily. Any lifting equipment that you are going to use, if it is of metal, ensure that it does not short circuit the cell terminals or connectors. Preferably, try to use insulated materials while lifting the battery. But if you do need to use a metal pulley or hook, ensure that it is not shorting the terminals or the connectors. When the unusable batteries are to be scrapped, these must be returned to the manufacturer or an authorized smelter. Please do not hand over the scrap batteries to any roadside scrap dealer or a person dealing with normal non-hazardous scrap. Proper disposal shall ensure that the batteries are not disposed of in a careless manner that can cause harm to the environment. Please do not try to open the battery by yourself unless you are sufficiently trained to do so. It is necessary to go through the operations and maintenance manual provided by the battery manufacturer and follow all the instructions to ensure the safety of all personnel using, maintaining, and handling batteries. If you are interested in learning more about batteries, chargers, battery management systems, or any related subjects like electric vehicles, you can always read my articles on Medium and Substack. You can also listen to my podcasts on various streaming platforms, including Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, and YouTube. I also maintain a WhatsApp community and an email community where I frequently share updates and global news with all these members. If you are interested in joining the community, please visit my website, access my contact details, and send me an email. My website is www.rameshnatrajan.in. If you're interested in learning more about batteries, you can access any of my books sold on Amazon. I have authored 3 books in English and 1 book in Hindi, and I shall be shortly releasing my 5th book this month, that is in August 2025. You can access these books on Amazon worldwide as well as on Flipkart. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope to release part 4 of my series 1 shortly. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel and thank you for watching this video.